welcome to Bull Run Paranormal. My name's Paula. It's been a long time since I have posted anything on this channel. I have been concentrating on developing content for my other channel, The Witch's Cauldron, where I teach Wicca and witchcraft and other kind of occult practices and educate people about those subject areas. So I am making a concerted effort to get back into my paranormal channel and develop new content for it. Today's video is going to be on poltergeists, and I think that this is kind of appropriate because when I'm filming this, we're less than a week away from Halloween, or Samhain, the witch's New Year. So when you hear the word poltergeist, many people immediately think of the movie Poltergeist, and that was kind of like a misdirection on what Poltergeist Activity actually is. It took it to a whole nother level. Poltergeist, the term poltergeist, is often used to describe ghosts or spirit in general. And poltergeist, the word itself, means noisy ghost. Okay? But it also, and it's called that because these entities have the ability to move objects or knock objects over, to cause various types of sounds like knocking, things of that nature, even growls. So poltergeists are one of the most rare forms of hauntings, okay? But to the average public, it's one of the most terrifying because of the Poltergeist series of movies that Hollywood put out, and the way that poltergeists are portrayed on television and in movie. So most of you can relate to poltergeist activities such as, random knocking sounds, lights turning on and off, doors slamming by themselves, cabinet doors opening by themselves, or fires even starting for no reason. And it usually starts out very low level and then escalates, and then all of a sudden start to de-escalate and then disappear. Now, on very rare occasions, you need to remember, as a paranormal investigator or someone who is interested in the paranormal, you need to remember that spirit can also cause a lot of these same types of activities. But a spirit has to develop and grow the ability to do that. And it takes a lot of energy for spirit to actually manifest types of poltergeist activities. Okay? And when that happens, when spirit has the ability to mimic a poltergeist haunting, you're going to need a very experienced medium and possibly a chaos magician and a Reiki master to work together to get rid of that spirit, okay, and make that spirit move on. Because if they get to the point where they can cause objects to move, they're very, very entrenched in that haunting, okay? So there is a book out there called Poltergeists by Rupert Matthews. And in his book, he states that poltergeists almost always have a focus person. This is usually a teenaged or prepubescent or pre-adolescent female, although poltergeist activity can be attributed to other people of any age or gender. Okay, it's just when poltergeist activity manifests, there's usually a pre-adolescent or teenaged female in the house. And what ends up happening is that this type of activity usually manifests when the focus person is under a whole lot of stress of some kind. This can be, divorces of parents, or divorces in general, rape or molestation, and also sometimes lower level poltergeist activity can come along just from the big fluctuation in mood and hormones that are associated with growing up and entering into, as adolescent, teenage, heading into adulthood, way. I mean, emotions, we can all remember when we were teenagers and our emotions were all over the place and our hormones were running amok and we didn't know how to deal with them. Well, sometimes that unbridled kind of fluctuation can create and manifest poltergeist activity. Sometimes poltergeists can actually have a little bit of a physical manifestation. They can sometimes appear like smoke or mist. Sometimes they can rarely take on a human or humanoid type of form. Sometimes they can manifest as animal or part animal form, like part human, part animal. Wet spots that smell of urine may manifest out of the blue. And in some cases, witnesses say that they have been harmed by this type of activity, usually through bite marks and scratches. In some cases, pets or animals may just inexplicably perish. Sometimes pyrokinesis happens and fires can break out in the house for no reason at all. There are also extremely rare cases where victims have reported being raped by a poltergeist. Okay. In Rupert Matthews's book, he outlines 8 stages of poltergeist hauntings. The first is what he called the beginning stage. And this is like very faint sounds, like a scratching noise. And you usually just write it off to an animal, like a mouse in the wall scratching, something like that, okay? And these noises are usually only heard at night. The second phase is what he calls the noise phase. And the noises that manifest become harder to ignore. These noises can involve like knocks on wood, or like the sound of a glass being struck, that ting from, that you hear when you touch a glass. It can also manifest as the tinkling of bells, especially if you have any kind of like, wind chimes or anything like that inside the house. There can also be times where very loud, like cracking noises can be heard, and very loud bangs can be heard. But this is a lot rarer in occurrence. Sometimes certain objects may appear to be vibrating, like shaking on, a table. And this noise activity can be heard at any time of day, daylight or nighttime. Then we go into the phase of moving objects. And this stage can also manifest at the same time as the, stage 2, the noisy phase. Objects move around without any kind of plausible explanation. It's very common to have stones thrown, or small objects be thrown and go across the room. Objects can disappear and then reappear. And this usually focuses on things like keys or some other kind of like ornament, okay? It is very rare to actually see the items move. Items can also be very warm or hot to the touch immediately after one of these manifestations of, being thrown or disappear and reappear. You can then go into the 4th stage, which is what Rupert Matthews called apports and disapports. When an object appears out of nowhere, it's called an apport. When an object disappears, it's called a disapport. These are very, very rare. Sometimes the objects that apport are objects that have not ever been owned by the person or even the family. It can be something from, somewhere else, okay? The next stage of poltergeist activity is what he called the communication stage. Sometimes the communication is through knocking. A lot of paranormal investigators have used the technique of knock 1 for yes, knock 2 for no, or turn the flashlight on for yes, leave it off for no, that kind of stuff. Sometimes you can hear actual voices at this stage, but they usually start out as like a growl or even a whistle. Then it kind of goes into like muttering of undecipherable words, or even like voices from way in the distance in whispers. Then they become more prevalent and loud, but the voice is often described as being rather robotic, okay? Eventually, the poltergeist is able to use regular speech and make statements, okay? When poltergeist activity is at this stage, the poltergeist will often claim very kind of grandiose existence, such as being a murderer, such as maybe having committed suicide, or even claim to be a famous person, okay? The next phase is what is called the climax phase. And this is where the activity is at such a level that it has never been that active before. It can last several hours. It can last several days. If a poltergeist is at the point where it can speak, it may tell you that it's going to be leaving soon. Okay, and that happens to be honestly true. Okay, they may actually, because it's the climax phase, that energy is disappearing. Okay, the next phase is the decline phase. And the decline of the activity is almost always shorter than the buildup of the activity. And the abilities of the poltergeist become weaker and weaker as time goes on. Okay. The next and final stage is the ending stage. And this is where the activity may just abruptly stop. It can also reach a kind of dramatic conclusion. Often, if an exorcism or a blessing has been done, like, a proper ritual to cleanse a house or cleanse a person, and then bless them, bless the house, can prematurely end the poltergeist activity. Also, having the focused person leave the premises may cause the activity to cease. Now, those of you who are paranormal investigators, everything that I just outlined with the poltergeist are also common in regular spirit hauntings. The difference being that poltergeist activity can often be stopped by telling the focus person to stop it, to tell them and explain to them that their emotions, and they created this type of entity, poltergeist entity. And once they realize that, they make a conscious effort to get control of that. And it's very important to teach the focus person how to ground and center. What is at the core of poltergeist activity is an excess of uncontrolled energy, and an uncontrolled state of psychokinetic energy. And teaching someone to be able to ground and center, to send that excess energy into the ground, into the earth. I almost call the method of grounding and centering like your pressure relieving valve for those emotions. Okay. Just, imagine popping open a steam valve and letting, bleeding off the excess steam. That is what is very, very important, to have the focused person responsible for this type of haunt to learn how to do. Because poltergeists, at the end of the day, are a type of psychokinetic energy that a human has created. It is not made from spirit. And once the person who is responsible for creating this type of activity, once it's brought to their attention and they're taught how to deal with that kind of excess energy, and often taking them to therapy or counseling, to give them extra tools how to gain control of those emotions and those hormones that are running rampant, that are often, there with dramatic teenage girls and dramatic teenaged boys. Once you're able to do that and have them direct that energy and focus that energy into something else, then the poltergeist activity will stop. Okay? With that, my friends, that's it for poltergeists. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I will try to answer them as best as I can. And be sure to like this video if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to focus on building this channel as well as my other channel, The Witch's Cauldron. If you are interested in Wicca, witchcraft, and the occult, then I will link The Witch's Cauldron in the description box of this video, and I will probably pin a comment at the top of the comment section with a link over to my second channel. So with that, my friends, I hope you have a blessed day, and remember to walk in love and light, everybody. Bye.